Hey everybody, welcome to Three Things I've Learned. I'm your host, Susan Dolci, and as always, I'm happy to spend these Tuesdays with you here on Transformation Talk Radio. Thanks so much for joining me. I really appreciate everybody. So recently I had a meeting with a mentor of mine, and I was sharing about how I'd been kind of mildly annoyed because I felt like all of the great teachers and spiritual leaders in my life, that they were all saying the same thing. Like they're all referencing quantum mechanics, unity consciousness, and energy frequencies. And I was like, kind of like, ugh, why is everyone saying the same thing? Where are the new ideas? Where's like, I was just so, anxious and hungry for something new. And then I had my aha moment. It was like, Susan, duh, they are all saying the same thing. They're all saying the same thing. So maybe we really are on the cusp of a huge transition, not just for our species, but for our collective consciousness. All of the great spiritual leaders, teachers, and even scientists have all come to the same conclusion, that we're one and we're not separate from one another, and nor are we separate from our Mother Earth. And that's why I'm delighted to have Dr. Alison J. K. on my show today, talking about how to upgrade your frequency and your vibration to navigate this massive evolutionary leap. For more than 25 years, Dr. Alison K. has practiced as a mind-body energy healer, founding the Vibrational UPgrade System, and working in yoga, meditation, qigong, energy medicine, mind-body fitness, longevity, wow, like rock star here, and holistic health with a specialization in the chakra system. Considered one of the leading experts in her field, she has taught around the world and is the author of 4 books. The award-winning What If There's Nothing Wrong, the international bestseller Vibrational UPgrade, A Conspiracy for Your Bliss, Easing Humanity's Evolutionary Transition, which we're going to be talking a little bit about, or maybe a lot about, as well as Reasonable Dragons, and most recently, the Dragon Master Creatrix, which we have to talk about because this is the way you wrote it is really intriguing. So thank you, Dr. Alison, for joining us today.
I'm happy to be here with you, Susan. I loved your opening. Hell yeah.
Here I was going like, why, and I remember like my senior year in high school, and tell me if you can relate to this, but it was like my senior year in high school that all of a sudden, everything I had learned all sort of congealed and kind of came together and made sense. Like all of my classes sort of overlapped, and I was like, I can make sense of everything I have just learned for the last 4 years. And it's sort of like that, like all of these great leaders and spiritual teachers they're like, we truly are like right on the cusp of this huge awakening. And how do we get there? So I always like to start with my guests, like especially when they have really fascinating backstories like you do. You spent 10 years in Asia teaching and learning. I would love to hear more about that.
So do you want to know what led me to go there, or what do you want me to focus on?
Well, I would love to. Well, I think I know why you went. You were teaching and you were like, there's got to be more than this or something like that. Let's start there.
Okay. So I was teaching in the classroom, English literature, and I was also teaching meditation to both adults in the community and then students, particularly boys, diagnosed with ADD or ADHD, in an after-school club. And then on the side, as a second revenue stream, I was doing energy medicine and holistic health and wellness sessions. And I was in a session with a woman on a Saturday. It's like a third session. We were getting great results. It wasn't like I was coming from a lack perspective. I was like, oh, wow, my hands are over her solar plexus and sacral. How do I get even better results than this for my clients? So that coalesced with me not wanting to have this sense of being in a cage for decades of this profession. That wasn't, I had a master's at that time, and it wasn't as easy for me to make ends meet as a teacher with minimal student loans because I'd worked all the way through. So it wasn't acceptable to me. I'd already lived as an expat in other places around the world. Before that, I knew I'm meant to have a sense of adventure and fun and abundance and ease. And it wasn't happening that way. So those two things led me to having brought in synchronistically that there is an international school system. So I did what I had to do to go and interview in a place in the States where all the heads from the different schools around the world came. I did a bunch of interviews each day and got a bunch of offers around the world, and chose Taiwan, the small democratic nation south of mainland, because they practice more the traditional Taoist beliefs. They're free to do that. But because I saw that there, as well as the Hindu yogic culture on the India subcontinent, not only have 5,000 years of ancient wisdom around how energy flows in the subtle energy system, but they also were still operating from it today. Whereas here in the West, we had our alchemists who knew these ancient power mysteries and ancient wisdom, and they went down underground and became the mystery schools. Right? So that was why I went. That's what led me to go. And so I ended up becoming a teacher and administrator and trainer of the new expat teachers eventually, because it was clear to my Chinese administrators that I was really immersed within the local culture and learning about them, and not living in the teacher provided housing, but living downtown. And I understood the cultural differences. So they asked me to actually coach the incoming new expat teachers. So I really, on my weekends, I would go. So I was a gym rat because I'm a personal trainer too. I don't even know if that was in that long list. But I was a gym rat after school. So I'd work out after school, and then I'd stop by like a Buddhist vegetarian buffet and get my tofu dinner that I know they chanted over because it was so pure. I'd eat that.
Yeah.
So then on the weekends, I'd go and get like a traditional Tui Na massage. And it would start with, I would also get reflexology. So I'd be sitting there with the chart in my hands of the feet and of the reflexology system. And I would be asked with my Chinese, what questions about how energy flows and the interconnectedness of the body. And then I would also go to monasteries, and I would go running on trails behind the monasteries in the woods, but also stop and talk with monks and ask questions and tour the monasteries and go chant. And then on my breaks, I'd stay over there and usually go to Thailand and explore more traditional holistic medical treatments and more about energy flow. I learned Qigong there, went to more monasteries there, as well as like laid on the beach, and also went dancing at night, integrated it all.
Like I said, rock star, like you got it all going on. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. So I pieced it together though. I find it, after doing so many podcast interviews throughout the years, I find it now somewhat, I don't know why I'm trusting to say it. I know it's not ego-based because I don't operate that way, but I didn't have like a grand mentor or a grand master that taught me everything. I've been snuffing out, following my guidance, following the breadcrumbs since I've been like in my late teens, and letting myself be guided and knowing to say yes.
I can relate to that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've pieced what I created as a vibrational upgrade system from all that I explored and learned. So my last year there during the Chinese New Year break, I took a couple extra days off in between to fit in a yoga teacher intensive training in India. And why am I saying that?
Because you know, like all types of energy medicine.
That's really not why I'm saying it though, but thank you.
No, you said, so what you're saying is that you kind of just followed your instinct, and kind of, you didn't have any one grand mentor, that you were following the flow.
Yeah, but one of my good teachers, thank you, the Q, was my yoga teacher, the founder of that school there. And so one of the things that I have seen is, it's not, how like people leave you, maybe yourself, but I'm sure you're already aware of this. Very few people are aware when they leave yoga studios that they've actually just opened their chakras, that every single yoga pose is designed around chakras and opening them. That is the premise of every single asana. And the asanas or body postures are only one leg of the 8 legs. I'm trained in traditional Ashtanga yoga. And so 5 of those 8 limbs of the path, or legs of the path, are about working with the mind and meditation. So I have this understanding that it's not just energy medicine. So I'm trained in 5 different modalities, ultimately, starting with Usui Reiki, really traditional. I did that while I was still here in the States. But it can't just be energy medicine. If we want permanent behavioral change, the mind holds this momentum. You know those wind up teeth that chatter and walk on a counter?
Yep.
Yep. So I can clear a block, and I train my students to clear a block with the light so that it comes out of the buried subconscious, like traumas go into the subconscious and they end up in the relevant part of the body because of the issue.
Mm-hmm.
It goes to a specific chakra, or is unconscious, and that also resides within the relevant chakra. So it's not just up in the mind when I say consciousness, it's all throughout our system. So when we apply the light to throughout the system in specific hand positions, we're bringing light to what has been buried in unconscious or under our conscious mind to free up that consciousness to then circulate. And let's interchangeably use energy here. But once that's freed up, once that trauma or that initial imprint or that initial conditioning that clocked down an unconscious belief about I have to prove myself as a woman by getting more degrees and working extra hard because I don't get paid equally as men, for example, which is combined with an awareness of reality. But the choices that we then make because of that conditioning to open up more possibilities, we would want to clear that. But what I see is people need then applied mindfulness. I don't mean mindfulness like eating an apple and you're present and you're going, oh, wow, this is great apple skin and a great tart apple, and totally appreciating all that. But like including the juices, that's what that was. But it's also this, okay, so now when you have that thought, I have to do this part of my business this way, because the unconscious conditioning behind the scenes was I have to work extra hard and prove myself because I'm a woman. So, when it comes to making a new choice in how you do a certain part of your business, there's now space with which to consider, maybe I don't have to actually do that. And so then learning how to come off of that chattering teeth momentum that's always left after a clearing happens to then create a new neurological pathway that leads to a new behavior is necessary. It's not just about energy medicine. So I couple energy medicine with that applied mindfulness. So that's the yoga and meditation background and the energy medicine background together.
Let's take a pause there. Hold that thought, because when we come back, I want to talk about. I was mentioning that I participated in one of your calls, and I want to talk a little bit about that when we come back, and exactly like what your program is, what the vibrational upgrade is, and how people can get involved in that. But right now, we're going to take a quick break. You're listening to Three Things I've Learned. We'll be right back. Hey, everybody, welcome back. You're listening to Three Things I've Learned. I'm Susan Dolci, and today I'm talking with my guest, Dr. Alison K, and we're talking about energy medicine, vibration, frequency, and before break, we were talking about the chakra system, and I was recently, I got to participate in a live call that Dr. Alison did, and I dialed in, so I wasn't sure if there was a Zoom option to it, so I wasn't aware of, the whole atmosphere. But apparently it was all remote, and she was able to really dial in to where people had blocks. And so you were directing people to put, their hands on different parts of their bodies, it's touching different chakra areas. And like, you knew when they were at the right spot, like you'd be like, stop, that's the right spot. And I was fascinated by that. So we were talking about how those blocks can affect your business, affect your mentality of what success means to you, what success doesn't mean to you, all those limiting beliefs. But how can you, so using the chakra system, how do you get people to tune in to those energies?
You're so cute. You want to ask me so much. You're tripping over your words. So let me learn as precisely as possible. So specifically what you want to know is, how do I tune in?
Yes.
Okay. So I have a nickname. It's called Hawkeyes. And it didn't work in my favor in my 20s in my romantic life, I'll have you know. Most men didn't want to be seen that clearly in the 20s. There was a lot more game playing happening, and the chasing cat and mouse game. So while it was not to my favor in my 20s romantically, I ended up with a good relationship. I don't mean to make it sound like tragic. Hawkeyes, like I can see. And I don't know, my mom at age 12, Susan, like we were sitting out on the swing in the backyard and she was saying to me, Alison, you have such a natural grasp of an understanding of people. You should consider becoming a psychologist. And that was actually my first major. And 3 semesters in, I was like, this isn't showing me how to be the happiest, most thriving version of myself. So I switched majors out of psychology. But what I'm saying is I seem to have a natural ability to do that. And then I've learned to hone it. So it's just how I see. I don't go into like a Whole Foods and start like reading the checkout book. And I teach my students never to, I'm seeing walking up to a stranger with that kind of gig, because it's just so unprofessional. And my mission is to professionalize energy medicine and to help understand that we'd have less suffering, particularly in the West, if we paid more attention and had more understanding of how our subtle energy system and consciousness works. There seems to be like this tradition in the West of focusing externally, that if we were to go inside, and the Catholic traditions has some relationship to this here. People who have a Catholic upbringing have a specific fear of going in and using their intuition. It's very interesting to me. And it's really, and I don't need to whip off patterns just to sound like I know what I'm talking about. I would only say something if it's an observed phenomena enough that it's clear it's a pattern. So like this fear of some bad punishment happening if I were to listen to my intuition, or that there's a big giant monster or boogeyman or craziness that I'll find if I go within. So let me just run from myself and focus externally. So really taking that film and all those beliefs off and letting, I'm even, there's one masterminder in Germany I have right now. She's in her 3rd round, her Dragon Master round. So she's been working with me for a year and a half, almost. And she's just now getting to the point where, I mean, Germany's interesting and has a bunch of stuff in the collective, and I'll stop talking because I know you have more questions, but it's just, she's now getting to the point where I'm feeling it's safe for me to lean into the dark instead of having to run from it. So I don't seem to have an issue with leaning into the dark and other people's darkness as well as my own, because I have this phenomenal trust in the power of the light.
And that's why you are able to do the work that you do. That's why you're able to guide people to where you are able to guide them. And so since we were talking about that, so let's talk about your program. Let's talk about Vibrational Upgrade. Where can people find out more about this? Where can they learn more about you in this program?
The Dragon Master Creatrix book, this was the most recently released one, Conversations with a Female Spiritual Teacher. It's on Amazon right now, and about to open up to all the other places that sell books. It's a conversation, and you yourself, Susan, I'd love to hear your feedback if I could be so self-indulgent. You said it was written in a very interesting style. What did you mean by that?
Well, what I liked about it, so not to give away the whole book because you're going to want to buy the book, but it is written from the student's perspective. So it kind of takes you on an inward journey, like you're the student and you are participating in the retreats and the lessons. And so it's almost like you get the teachings from you as if I am the student. And I've just never read a book written from the student's perspective that's written by the teacher. So I found that really fascinating.
Cool. Thank you for that. Yeah, it was edgy for me, which is great because we always want to be on that edge, never in a comfort zone for too long anyway. To give out that many what's had been secrets. I mean, I'm so traditionally trained. The Usui Reiki lineage I'm a part of, I'm only 6 removed from the founder. That's relatively unheard of to get that pure.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That is, yeah. Wow. Okay.
I get to pass that on in the
Impressed.
Yeah, thank you for knowing enough to be impressed by that, because I see so many people knowing Reiki now. And this, again, is only the first of my 5 energy medicine trainings. And like, I refer them to my students as drive-through Reiki. Like, you're supposed to have 4 attunements with an overnight sleep between the 2 on each day for each level. Level 1, go in for a day, get 2 attunements, get the training, go home. You need sleep to integrate it, because each attunement's 8 sessions. It's the equivalent of 8 sessions. So me giving 16 sessions to one person in one day and them receiving the equivalent of 16 sessions. And then it's the same thing on the second day of training. But I see people go and get trainings for level 1, one day, 1 attunement, level 2 the next day, and 1 attunement. And they don't know what the hell they're doing. And then they go out and treat people and people get Reiki and they're like, this doesn't work. So that's in part what I mean when I'm all about professionalizing the field of energy medicine.
Well, yeah, I mean, that was actually, I'm glad you brought that up because I've always, I feel a little hypocritical saying I've always been sort of skeptical of Reiki, but I always felt like I've had one Reiki session, which now that I know it should never be just one, according to Dr. Allison. But I really, really wanted to feel an energy shift. I really wanted to feel something like either that day or the next day or the day after. And so I thought, well, is it me? Is it because I'm resistant to this? Do I have some block saying that this isn't going to make a difference? Or was it the practitioner? So you've just kind of schooled me.
Hold your hands up, please. You may have done this before. It's really typical. It's
Okay.
one of the things we do in Qigong in the very beginning. But I'm going to do it with all the listeners. You can guys do this. Your hands are in front of it's better to do it like more in front of your chest and
Okay.
have them be about 1.5 feet apart. Now, slowly, let's bring our palms towards each other, very, very slowly. Perceive what you're feeling in your palms and between your fingers.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to have our palms touch. Just stay tuned into between the palms and the fingers. And when you get about 1 inch
I'm
apart,
familiar with this feeling. I can feel it feels like you have soap suds in between your hands.
or tingles or
Yeah.
heat or
Do you know
resistance.
like when you have like a pile of soap suds in between your hands and you kind of feel that,
Yeah,
there's some, yeah, that's what I feel.
like there's something there. And so
Yeah.
start pulling them apart. Okay. So you can clearly perceive energy. That's the whole reason why I just wanted to do that.
Oh,
So
okay.
it was the practitioner. But I want to caveat this with saying too, that I know that in a series of sessions, because the first session is usually about taking you out of your everyday stressed out state. Meaning just calming the chatter, calming the busyness, calming the go, 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 and just calming the central nervous system and helping the parasympathetic nervous system show up just a little bit more.
Yeah.
So then
if people know, if you know what it is, like most people don't even know they have a parasym, like the
right.
science, you have to know this, knowing the science is half the battle, I think, but yeah.
Well, okay, I'll just let that go because
I was going to say, because I know we're going to get into some other more juicy tidbit, and we should probably take one more quick break. You're listening to Three Things I've Learned. I am chatting today with Dr. Alison K. We're talking about energy medicine and energy healing and all things energy, and we will be right back. Hey, we're back. I am talking with Dr. Alison K. She's an expert in mind, body, energy healing, and we have been talking all things energy. And what I want to get to, we're going to talk about her program, but I really feel, and I think you are a friend in this same emotion, that it is more important than ever to keep our energy and our frequencies high, like especially with the pandemic. I know I'm digressing in a different area, but that if there is a time that we have to really stay kind of rooted in love and rooted in positive energy, it's now.
Yeah. So the second book you mentioned, Vibrational UPgrade Conspiracy for Your Bliss, with the subtitle my publisher said I had to have on there because of my work that I do, Easing Humanity's Evolutionary Transition. So 2012 to 2032 is a 20-year window considered our greatest evolutionary leap ever. The awakening, it's nicknamed our spiritual awakening times.
Mm-hmm.
So what I've been seeing, I had a radio show for 2.5 years weekly. Voice America asked me to do one about the Mayan galactic alignment. I did it.
I know I'm jealous because didn't you get to interview Dr. Bruce Lipton?
Yeah, a couple times.
So jealous. So
I'm
like, Bruce Lipton. Okay.
Yeah, I'm on good terms with him. He almost wrote the intro for one of my books. I don't remember which one, but he was in the midst of publishing his own, so he just couldn't get in the time scale that I needed. He's fabulous. He's just pure heart energy. God bless him.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got to interview him and a lot of other cool people like Krishna Das too. So I got to understand, I wasn't doing anything in my business with the Mayan galactic alignment of December 21st, 2012. I nonetheless felt the intuitive guidance, yes. And so I got to interview all these different specialists about what these times are. And it's not just the Mayans that predicted the end of one era and the beginning of a new one. Yogi Bhajan. It's the end of one yuga, the beginning of another yuga. And then there's others.
Oh, what's a yuga? Educate me.
It's a period. Thank you for doing what you just did. It's a period of time.
Okay.
In the yogic world, yugas are considered just chunks of time, or eras.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. And then others say from the astrological perspective, going from Piscean age to the Aquarian age, like we've heard that. So what it seems like, I went in 2019 for my birthday, autumn equinox, to Teotihuacan outside Mexico City, and we hired a native guide. And I asked him, already having had that show and talked to so many specialists, was at Chichen Itza on the day of the alignment, because I was one of the specialists on a yoga cruise as the energy medicine specialist and meditation teacher, yoga teacher. The cruise was from Florida to, now I'm in Florida, I'm on the West Coast, I'm on the Gulf of Mexico. You just shoot across the Gulf and we're right there in Mayan land on the Yucatan.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was at Chichen Itza on the day of December 21st, 2012, and I'd just been there the year before, and my feet were bare both years. And the year before, when I was taking a VIP client there, which I do many times, the ground wasn't vibrating through my feet. But when I was there on December 21st, 2012, we all had to wear white. We got the special permission to do a ceremony led by a local Mayan at one of the pyramids close to the main pyramid. And the ground was vibrating. It was unbelievable. It was like lightning was shooting up through my feet. There were TV crews there. I was told I was seen on TV as far away as a friend of mine in Poland. So, I mean, it was a big deal. And so I have a lot of experience within the Mayan world. And so flash forward 7 years, 2019, I asked this native Mayan guide, what do you think the difference is between the old era and the new one? And he said, the old one is about destruction and the new one is about construction. Mm-hmm. So look at the way you opened the show. That's another way to say what you were saying, construction. And the Dalai Lama, when I was teaching in the classroom, we were exploring a human's inherently good or evil. And so I gave them extra credit. They went home, they came back, we talked about it. And I brought in the Dalai Lama's text because I used that in a psychology course I created there, Global Psychology. And he said, the Dalai Lama, if we were inherently evil, we still wouldn't be alive. Because you basically said, I raised the cows for the dairy, the goats, hopefully goat milk, for the dairy, sheep for the dairy rather than the cows that take up less land. And Mike builds the houses and Jean does the textiles, and we all work together constructing life. So if we were inherently evil, we would have destructed by now. Mm-hmm. So if you think about that working together, collaborative unity thing, and I am very big on the co-creation, learning not to be a victim to, I'm going to say this, never mind, like, and this may sound politically incorrect, never mind your ethnic, gender, socioeconomic background, no matter what, you don't see yourself as a victim to anything outside of you. Mm-hmm. Furthermore, and even more importantly, you don't see yourself a victim to any of your own limiting beliefs. So that you can then co-create from the fifth chakra. This is where we create from. And when we have a tight neck or maybe a thyroid issue, there is indication that you're out of balance here. And it's not just about communicating, speaking your truth, not lying, feeling heard. The whole second level, the more advanced level, is that this is where if we don't feel like we have any choice, we live like this. If we feel like we have choice and we're creating our lives through our choices and see that while I may do macrame, I'm also doing my business, and that's creative, and I have choice, and I'm making choices with everything I do, whether an active choice or not. And seeing that power is what these new times are about, so that you can't do the blame game, right? So these times are immense, and people are awakening, having ears ringing. They're feeling there's more food allergies because we're all cleansing, as is the earth. And we've been doing that since around 2012. And by COVID time, I don't mean to philosophize about COVID. I've been talking about the shift in fevers peaking as we purge naturally since 2011 even. And for me, COVID just seemed to be an indication of just how much people were in resistance to going within and to actually shifting in the way that many of us had already been doing. So it was like the final sweep that was needed to do what you were saying, to go within, to get quieter, to recognize like that you have a parasympathetic nervous system, meaning the calmer nervous system, not the adrenal activated fight or flight, sympathetic nervous system, go, go, go. So I say all of that because it seems like the shift that we're now in at this time in 2021 is the beginning of the construction. All this has been about crumbling the old paradigm from 2011-ish, 2012 really, till now. We have another, we're halfway through, irregardless of the math, in a nice, neat division. We really are now at the turning point after the spring equinox of 2021. Energetically, intuitively, I perceive this, that it's now the construction time where we are doing how you open the show. The unity is there. There's more people aware, so they're using some of the same language. I hear you on that. So my program is, I mean, I've been doing it by invite only. It's still by invite only, people who I train to become vibrational upgrade practitioners, but I've not invited my people on my list out to it. It's when they've shown up and they enter my signature program, Magic Manifestation and Money Flow, or one of the women came in from being on one-on-one sessions with me. But the 3M program, 3M being Magic Manifestation and Money Flow, it's my signature 3-month program, as a prerequisite because you're clearing yourself. We're clearing you. We're upgrading, Magic Manifestation and Money Flow. If you're in alignment, you're in the flow, and then you can manifest as if by magic, and that includes money. So we're clearing all of these different beliefs around success and money and worthiness and deservingness and just so much practical application to the material life, that then out of there, if somebody expresses an interest and has potential, or I see it and they've yet to see it, I will then invite them into the mastermind. And the mastermind is where my people get trained, and we go on, I take them on retreats to Glastonbury, UK, and we go to sacred lands and sacred sites and stone circles, and I train them.
Like in the Dragon Master Creatrix.
Yes, yes, exactly like that book. So if you want to have a sense of it, you get the book. It's entertaining, it's an easy read, but you're also taking in a ton of information, but through story form. So it's easier for you to have it kind of go in. But I was edgy about how much secrets I was letting out, because they were heretofore only talked about in the trainings. Now there's stuff on the trainings that aren't in that book, by God, like the attunements that you get, and then the training manuals that you get, so that you step out and are able to do this work yourself increasingly. So I have given you a link that has where people can, I'm only opening it up to you. I'm not doing this anywhere else. It's interesting, Susan, look at you.
I feel honored and humbled. Thank you.
I mean, I don't know. I'm just following my guidance. So you want to say the link, or you want me?
No, you go ahead. You can.
It's AlisonJK.com and then a /VUP. That's the acronym for Vibrational Upgrade System - certification - waitlist /. And I'll be doing a couple of special programs in the next 2 months to help inform people more and invite the right people in when it's a fit to become vibrational upgrade practitioners. And I have to say, frankly, my business coach was telling me, Alison, it's like it's a business in a box. Now, I'm not at all formulaic. I'm completely individualist in applying it to how each of the people showing up gets the lightest from focusing it in this way. But there is like, this is how you market it. This is how you do workshops. This is how you get clients. This is how you treat clients. This is how you call in the light. This is how you channel the light. This is where you put your hands. This is what you wear at a workshop. This is what you don't wear at a workshop. This is what you use for your marketing blurbs. Like, it's a business in a box. And then all of the help is given.
Yeah, you're setting them up so they can't fail. Yeah.
Yeah, well, the vibrations they're getting all the way through Magic Manifestation and Money Flow and the Mastermind program, where they're working on themselves and clearing themselves, is doing that too. And the free gift I'm giving you is starting people on that track, because it's for success.
So I will make sure that the link is also in the show comments. So you'll be able to reach that there too, but it's time. We're going to take one more quick break, and when we come back, I want to talk a little bit about energy and Mother Earth.
Ooh,
so
yummy.
Yeah, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Everybody, we are back. This is our last segment. This is 3 Things I've Learned. I'm Susan Dolci, and I've been talking for 45 delicious minutes with Dr. Alison J. She's a mind energy body healer, and she's written 4 books. Go to Amazon, look them up. Her latest book is The Dragon Master Creatrix. It is it's an interesting sort of self-help book. in the realm of self-help books, because it's written from the student's perspective. So it's a really fun read. Also, if you head on over to her website, which is alisonjk.com, and there's only one L in Allison, I like to say that. She has a freebie. She has a 20-minute audio package that includes energetic clearings, transmissions, and activations to help you get unstuck so you can reach your next level of success. So before we went into break, I wanted to talk about, we were talking about unity consciousness. We were talking a little about COVID, and this is the time of construction, not destruction. So when I go into meditation more recently, I really have been trying to focus on not just my own, my own healing or my own, presence, but sending out, golden light that surrounds the globe, and, and whatever I can do from my one person to try and heal what's happening on our earth. And I'd like to hear what what your thoughts are on that.
Susan, you are doing so much by doing that. And I'm not even going to use the word just in front of by doing that. You're doing so much by doing that alone. One of the things that's changed is because so many people are so much more in the heart nowadays, and working with managing their minds and disciplining the monkey mind, the holographic impact of our holographic is how we're connected. There's been measurements of this. There's science behind it if you need to go that route. I actually mention it in my third book, Reasonable Dragons, the science behind the impact of you elevating your heart. You affect, at this point, 100,000 other people. You alone in your house, meditating, and not even just doing the golden light procedure yet. So by you going for what brings you joy and uplifts your heart, you're helping uplift 100,000 other people. That's the whole. I used to be in politics, and I was going for change in protecting the environment, and I stopped and deferred to my master's, my bachelor's instead of my master's, because I saw that the fossil fuel system wasn't ready to give in, and people weren't ready. It just wasn't ready. And so I saw that change was more powerful, one consciousness at a time. But in going for the 100th monkey theory. So we've now reached a point, where your heart being open and uplifted because of so many others, there's more power now to it. Whereas when there were fewer people, the holographic field wasn't as robust. So it has more effect nowadays than it did even 5 years ago.
I so want to believe in the 100th monkey theory. Is it 100 or 1,000? I want 1,000. I so want to believe that that is true.
You have this podcast. Do you see more yoga studios? Do you not?
Yeah.
Do you see more meditation apps?
Absolutely. Yes.
COVID. Okay.
Before COVID? Yes. But apps. But this is my community. These are my people. This is where I hang out. Like how,
See more health food stores.
Not in my community, unfortunately, but yeah.
There's more commercials about pure, clean, or organic food.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Have you seen less interest in the pharmaceuticals and more interest in natural healing?
Yes.
Okay. All of those are symptoms of the 100th monkey gaining steam, of that old paradigm crumbling, where they can do monocrop, mass ag business, poison the soil, have no minerals in the soil, continue to plant the same crop over and over again, pollute all of our food, where we end up with sicknesses that we then go to the pharmaceutical companies to then give us more medicine with more chemicals that's going to compound and make it worse and suppress, rather than the opening. Now, I'm not saying that pharmaceuticals are all bad. There's uses for certain cases that are just really, really successful. What I am saying is, Claire, I think you can reason it out. But the point is that there are symptoms of the spiritual awakening time taking grip and the new paradigm starting, that I want to give you to reassure you that, because I see your beautiful heart going, I so want to believe in it. Really, really. So also,
which is, so the theory, for those of you that aren't familiar with it, is that there's a tipping point. So it's like if a 100, so like let's say a monkey learns to use a rock to crack a nut. And by the time a 100th monkey learns to use a rock to crack a nut, it would permeate the collective unconscious or collective conscious of the monkeys, and they would all know how to use a rock to crack a nut. So the idea,
it's based on an actual phenomena that happened on an island out in the Pacific.
So the idea being that if we all get to a certain level of awakening, we will kind of reach this tipping point, and we will all have this collective awakening.
Yes. And if it has, COVID was needed from my assessment in order to tip. And
Yeah.
after, in the way people have
As, un-
chosen.
as unfortunate as that is, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but as unfortunate as that is, I totally see what you're saying.
Well, I cried. My first live event, I was already working on clients I have a client in the Philippines, and she had a friend in a Hong Kong hospital, and he had already gone down into lung collapse because it was already over there. And then I had a client in Germany who I had to help. So I watched it. I was working with it as it came over to the West, to the States in particular. But I cried my first live I did with people for the equinox in 2020 because of the amount of suffering humanity seemed to require in order to cause them to choose proactively instead of requiring suffering a crisis to make a different choice or to go within. Like when people get a diagnosis or they have a divorce or a need for a divorce, or they have some crisis that makes them look for something different, looking for something different or going for expansion without needing a catalyst of suffering. That's in part why my first book is entitled What If There's Nothing Wrong? And I look over there because there's my bookshelf with my books. So you then also talked about the golden energy and sending it out to the earth. So this is very much the first two levels of the training with as a vibrational upgrade practitioner are about first learning, you're clearing yourself, you're learning how energy flows in a human being so that you can do that with other people. The second level is then being able to teach, to attune others to this with more mastery. The third level then is pure vibrational upgrade system, where it's the dragon master level, where I take people out on the land to learn how to work with the dragon lines, which is what ley lines were originally called.
Oh, really? I did
Yes.
not know that. I know ley lines, but I'd
Ling,
never heard of dragon lines.
Ling Mei, if I remember correctly, is a Chinese term for it. So dragon lines. And so then learning how to work with the dragon lines with dragons at stone circles to distribute the light out there along the ley lines to help humanity. And then the Dragon Master Creatrix, all of that's elevated and it brings in much more working with the elementals.
Mm-hmm.
So you weren't far off, Susan, with the golden light sending it out. So if you wanted to, like, keep reading Dragon Master Creatrix, because I go into a little bit more depth with that. But I mean, you have to be with me on the training to really do it, and obviously to be able to do it, but to ground it. I wasn't going to give that away in the book because it just has to be an experiential thing. But the land is more alive in certain places on a planet than others. And so like there's more fairy play in some areas than others. And you can feel that when you go in certain forests than others, right?
Oh, yeah. I was in the redwoods 2 summers ago, and it was amazing. Like I've never had an energetic experience like that being in that forest than I have in other forests. Like it was vibrating with just holiness.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sequoia National Park's good too. They're even
Yeah, we
bigger.
did. Yeah, we didn't get a chance to get up there, but yeah, it was breathtakingly beautiful. And something else I just want to bring up really quickly too. I had a meeting with Dr. Pat the other day, and we were talking about there was a recruiting company or something, and they did a survey of young people coming up in the 20 somethings job seeking, and what are they looking for in an employer, what are they looking for in jobs, and the number one response was purpose. They wanted to know what the company's purpose and mission was. And so it's like that, what's coming, like the change makers are coming.
Here, I'm one. It didn't start
Yeah.
with millennials, the X-Gen at the very least. I'm
Yes.
sorry, I have to say that because that's what I'm up to.
Well, no, I totally agree with you, but I feel like this upcoming generation, like generations they are going to have a completely different approach and understanding to our world, to our earth, that our earth is a living being. It's not just something to be raped and pillaged and used. And I have so much hope and so much excitement for what these kids are gonna do to change our world. Yeah.
Me too. But Susan, we're already doing it. You're meditating, you're having this podcast, you're having me on, you're reading that book, you're going to that call of mine. You're doing it currently. We're doing it already. And so we're setting up the new paradigm for them to come in and then build it further. So
Yeah.
it's a new world. So it's not just them, it's us here now. And I even want the baby boomers' wisdom to temper some of, I mean, I was trained in what impact it has on a student when they're brought up with no encyclopedias that are hard copies, but all online, because I was doing it at that time when it was transitioning. And I trained with one of the guys that writes the byline, "The world is flat." He was making fun of it. New York Times bestselling author. He gave a training for teachers in Bangkok. I went to it. And one of the things he was talking about was that these kids coming up now, they're going to go through like 4 different careers. It's not this one company thing anymore. And they're really creative, but there's an impact on them from growing up with a mouse in their hand. At that time, it was still a mouse. And so the point being is that they have some unrealistic expectations that need to get tempered by the wisdom of people who have not grown up straight with only the internet and Google. Yeah. There's a balance that I see the baby boomers and the older generations having with the millennials, because the millennials there's some unrealistic expectation with some of them. And even when they go on Shark Tank, it's funny to watch on Shark Tank, because at one point, Mark Cuban was saying, every millennial who comes in here talks about a purpose. Tell me your business plan. Yeah. Yes. So the balance, everything's coming back to the balance. We don't, balance, so it's good.
So yes, balance is life, right? We all need more balance. Dr. Alison, this has been awesome. Thank you so much. You are so fun to hang out with. So thank you. We all have a story to tell. You can live in the story or you can transform the story. It's your choice. But if you change your story, you can change our world. Thanks for listening, everyone. I'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to 3 Things I've Learned with Susan Dolci. Tune in every first and third Tuesday at 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern on TransformationTalkRadio.com for more inspiring stories of radical transformations, courageous breakthroughs, and life lessons. For more information on Susan and the stories that shift our souls, visit her at SusanDolci.com. That's SusanDolci.com, DOLCI. We'll see you next time.